recording is in Anchored in Faith, Building Resistance for the Fire Wife Life. We are so honored and beyond grateful to have Kay Wilson-Bolton. She is the chaplain for the Ventura County Fire Department. She's an ordained elder in the Presbyterian Church. She started the chaplain career in 2007 with the Santa Paula Fire Department. She previously served as Santa Paula's mayor, where she signed in 1990 a proclamation creating the position for the fire chaplain. Kay is also an active real estate broker for eXp Realty of California and the chief financial officer for the nonprofit that operates Santa Paula's homeless shelter. We could spend 2 hours just going over this amazing life of yours, Kay.
Well, we don't want to do that today.
I read through it and just, would love to have a conversation with you someday on how long were you a mayor?
I was on the council for 4.5 years. And what's so interesting about our name, Stephen Kay was the pastor of the St. Paul's Episcopal Church here. And here I'm the mayor, Kay, signing this. And here you are, Stephanie Kay and Jason Kay in Ventura. So
it's crazy.
It is kind of.
So today we're hoping to dive in on the demands that the fire life has and how faith can play an integral part in it. So some of the questions that we're hopefully going to answer is how faith can equip you with the resilience needed to thrive amidst the unique pressures of the fire service. I'm hoping to also discuss actionable strategies for integrating your beliefs into your daily life and find peace in uncertainty. I know that's huge. Also cultivate hope during difficult times and build an enduring spirit. So tell me how you feel about all that.
I thought I would start by describing what the role of a chaplain is so that you'll understand why I'm going to say some of the things I'm going to say. Our role is to provide a ministry of presence. The Bible says we are to mourn with those who mourn. And so on an incident, we have to be very resilient and flexible as to how we help somebody mourn. And one time I thought I would write a book about my experiences on the incident calls, and I decided not to do that because I don't really want to remember all of the experiences I've had. So by not putting them in writing, I can put them in the box where I can store them away safely. And so when we arrive on scene to talk to someone, whether it's, a family member or a neighbor, and in our case, we might deal with a firefighter family. Let me interject too. Ventura County Fire has sworn chaplains. We have 4 who are designated for peer support, and then the fire chaplains work primarily with the public. However, we have found there have been some cases where some of the firefighters would prefer not to talk to a peer about some things that they're going through. So we can do both. And so what we found in working with the firefighter families is, the wife, and I don't want to be too exclusive here, wife, mate, spouse, partner, all are being addressed in this particular conversation. So what we know a lot about what you go through. I will say, so you'll know my level of experience with tragedy. My husband died 4 years ago. Our daughter died of a drug overdose a few years ago. We didn't even know she had a substance abuse, but she was an administrator for a skilled nursing facility and had all the access she needed to all the drugs she ever wanted. So that news came as quite a blow, as you can imagine. So I have my own experience of dealing with grief and tragedy and then trying to come out from under that. And for me, I'm a Christian. And what fire chaplains do is we adapt to whatever faith tradition someone has. We have been trained in dealing with Buddhists, um, Jewish culture, uh, um, and there's one other that we've actually been trained in and what happens at the time of death so that we don't make mistakes and we don't say things we shouldn't say. So to the firefighter wives in this group, we know a lot about what you go through. And it's very important that as you cope with some of the things I'm going to mention, that you have some kind of higher power. I ran the homeless shelter here in Santa Paula for many years. And so I know all about that higher power element so that people can step beyond what they're coping with at the moment and turn it over to something who can help navigate that. So in the Christian environment, Jesus said, cast all your cares on me because I care for you. My burden is easy, and my yoke is light. So for everyone, you have to have that higher power so you can step beyond what you're going through and what you keep living with that keeps you from maybe functioning in a way that you want to do that. So the challenge is, particularly after some of the experiences we've had recently with the terrible fires in Los Angeles, is the wife at home not hearing from husband, and I'll refer that generically if I can for this conversation, hearing from them, not knowing when they're coming back, what are they facing now, the fear of, and now we're dealing with this extra element of fear, dealing with somebody who's going to shoot them when they show up on scene. That's new and different, but in the economy in which we live, in the mental health environment we know exists in all of our communities, we have to face a new reality of what can happen. There's high level of anxiety and fears, frustration about when are they coming home, planning meals, they don't come home, and we don't know when the end of their shift will be. And we all know that you end up being unappreciated in many realms for the burdens that you have to carry while you're home alone with the kids. So what is helpful for you to consider is acknowledging what's expected of you, understanding the demands of the firefighter, and grasping what life is like at the station. There's a camaraderie there that you can never compete with. And it's a brotherhood, now sisterhood, that's a very solid part of their lives when they aren't with you and at home. You need to protect your heart and mind about thinking about things that are going to trouble you when you start wandering into realms of the unknown and wondering about the what ifs. There are ways to protect your heart and mind as well that I'll talk about before we depart today. You have to keep in constant consideration the needs of the family. Those little ones don't need to know everything that's going on with dad or mom if she's the firefighter. The more they know, the more questions they're going to ask. And then fear and anxiety develops in them. And so helping them cope with what they're hearing on the news and not putting your own thoughts and fears into their hearts and minds will be very helpful because it will limit the questions that they ask you about why did those animals have to die? Why did that little boy have to die? Why don't they have homes? Hard questions to answer even for us. What we need to acknowledge too is that according to statistics, more firefighters die by suicide than actually in the line of duty. That should not be. And so equipping you with ways to help your firefighter husband when he comes home so that those elements and fears of what could happen are removed from your home environment. So what can happen to you is that you can lose patience. You can lose trust in the system that's going to look out for you. You may start looking for love in all the wrong places, whether it's food, shopping, pornography, talking to people about things that maybe you shouldn't be talking to them about, um, and hearing from others in the same position you're in who may have the same fears and anxiety that you have and are not helping you. You can grow distant from family and friends if you're feeling too isolated. And that's why this higher power has to be a part of your conversation and a part of your thought process the minute you wake up, until you go to sleep, because your sleep can be interrupted by waking up and thinking about things that are going to trouble you for the rest of the night. You can grow distant from people, stop communicating, and the fallout from all of those things is immeasurable, particularly with your children. I found even with my birthday club, we meet once a month and we're all my age. And they're retired, they're home. I'm in the workplace every day and hearing things on the news. And when I find myself saying, did you hear about, they'll say, Kay, do we need to know about that? And no, they don't. So I don't share it because it's not helpful. It's not lifting them up. It gives them more things to think about and to be anxious about. So I would share that with you to kind of limit what you talk about, because if you're adding fuel to the fire, for example, you're actually making the whole situation worse. And so what you can do is know your limits, mind the line. If you don't know what that means, I recommend you Google that. Minding the line means you have a place that you won't cross. And that can be where your mind goes, what you will do, who do you talk to, so that you're choosing wisely with those who you share time and space. And again, exaggerated chatter is not helpful for anyone. And guard your conversations in the home so you are not sharing what's called vicarious trauma. If the kids hear you on the phone talking to someone about this and that, and we all know what this and that is, in the crisis, your kids are going to pick up on that and want to know more, which will not be helpful for them. Everyone has to find a spiritual center, whatever that is. For me, it's the Christian faith found in, what Christ did for me on the cross, so I don't have to go through that. But for others, it's a form of meditation. It's reading a good book. It's getting away from the noise and the distractions of what that crisis is bringing into the news environment, because we're all on phones, we're all going through Facebook, wanting to know what's the latest and greatest. And there's a lot of chatter within the fire service about what's going on, speculation about what might happen. I urge you to consider counseling. If the spiritual center is vague to you and it's not helping, be careful who you counsel with. Every fire department has the HR and the employee plan, which allows you to probably have some counseling at no cost. Some are concerned about who's going to know about that, so you may want to seek some outside counseling. There's group counseling, which can be helpful but dangerous if you don't want to expose your personal thoughts. And then there's couples counseling. I'm sure that the husbands come home with all kinds of fears. What happened at home? They're bombarded maybe with guess who did what, guess what broke, we need to have it fixed. And that compounds the energy level in the home that may not be helpful. There's lots of things you can do to protect yourself, guarding your heart and your mind so that your thoughts aren't wandering to places that are not helpful for you. So I recommend counseling, reading that good book, reading the Bible, and helpful things that are going to cushion the bombardment of news that you hear constantly, and take away some of that anxiety and fear about what could happen and what might happen and probably won't. For me, one of the verses in the Bible that's most helpful is Psalm 61. And King David is saying, lamenting to the Lord, hear my prayer, O Lord. To the ends of the earth, my heart cries for you. When my heart is faint, lead me to the rock that's higher than I. And that puts me in a place where I don't have to stay where I am, and there's another place to go so that I don't have to continue overwhelming myself with anxiety and fear about the future. So those are some thoughts about what firefighter wives, mates, spouses, and significant others can do when a time of crisis comes so they are not overwhelmed. So Stephanie, if I've left out a piece that maybe you and your experience knows might be helpful, I'd be happy to go there.
There's just seems to be a common theme. There's two things. This world is big, and a lot of what we deal with is bigger than us. It's bigger than our, 8-pound brain that we can figure out. And I know for me, through the, 24 years that I've been in the fire service with Jason, it has been an important part to go, God, this is bigger than me, and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to manage this next 5 minutes. I need you to be able to reach out to a higher power has been everything. The headspace. I had to really get in control of the headspace. The spirals that can happen that are not reality can really throw us into, like you said, into a panic that doesn't need to be there. So guarding your head and guarding your heart and having good boundaries. I heard you talk a lot about think about who you talk to. Think about what you do. In your loneliness, in your despair, where do you go? And will it help or hurt your marriage in the long run? So all of these things, guarding your head and heart, I like that as a common theme of really what does the Bible say about take all your thoughts captive?
Right.
As a visual for me to take all your thoughts captive and hand them over.
Yeah, it's to the obedience of Christ. I mean, that's how focused that has to be, so that you're not wandering around and making the situation worse and creating a level of anxiety within yourself that it's harder and harder to cope with. There's so many wonderful Bible verses. I mean, in Isaiah, Old Testament, New Testament, so the Jewish environment and then the Christian one. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my right hand. I mean, who doesn't need to just know that somebody bigger than we are is holding you up? And I don't want to assume that everybody listening to this has a Christian tradition, but those things are helpful when you start worrying about who can I go to. King David, the most powerful king on earth, even said, lead me to that rock that's higher than I. So we all need a rock to stand on when we're weak.
I know as a mom of adult children now, that has been pivotal to not get so consumed with the what ifs and the where are theys and the how are we going to get out of this, or to be able to stop and really give them back to a higher power and say, you created them, you've got them, I will turn to you and keep my mind right on you, and you will help me manage this moment.
Remember that they are his, and he loaned them to you for a little while.
Very well said. Yes. Amen. Amen. Let's see. There was a couple other things you said that I wrote down. Mind the line. I got to make sure. I was speaking with another wife about how we can fuel their frustrations, or we can validate, support, and yet not fuel the negative fire down the path of like injustice of all they go through. How am I playing a part in when they come home? Am I putting fuel on a negative fire, or how am I supporting a career that's going to last 30 years? How do I do that? Because I don't want to say, no, that's not happening, but how do we validate it without adding fuel to it?
Well, remember that, like it or not, we were created to be helpers. And there's some very wonderful explanations about that word helper. It doesn't mean a subservient slave at all. If you remember, Aaron held up Moses' arms so that the battle could be won. The same word for Aaron holding his brother's arms up is used for the word helper for Adam and Eve and husband and wife. So that's just a whole new perspective on that. So when that guy comes in the door or a woman, see them through God's eyes. They're created, in the image of God, and, wonderful people with great potential. It's not our job to make them better. It's our job to validate them. One of the worst things that happened to me was losing my husband. It was during COVID. Horrible experience. And so I look back, and how many times I wish I had validated instead of saying, I wish you wouldn't do that, or if you would do this, it would be better. Somebody walking in the door needs to have, it's interesting. They may come in and they want to jump in bed right away. They may want a hamburger. They may want a beer. It's hard to know what they're going to be like when they get home, but be prepared for anything and let it kind of happen so that you can move beyond that first encounter with some peace and quiet and joy. And then you can get into the hard stuff once the easy part's been satisfied.
Good point. Good point. I know that during our 25 years together, you grow and change. And the person we laugh about it now in our 20s was in our 30s or our 40s. So the transition, and there was a few years where all I could think of is, God, let me just see him the way you see him, hear him the way you hear, help the way you would want me to help, and not knowing what tomorrow will bring. But I know today I just want to see him the way you see him, because in my humanness, I'm hurt, sad, frustrated, angry, whatever it is. Let me just stop and let me see him the way you see him. And when I tried to see it through God's eyes, the one that created him, the day went a lot better for me.
Yeah. Yeah, the hot air goes out of the room if you can do that. Yeah. Good for you. I wish more people could learn that sooner.
It was hard at the time, living out of my own thoughts and brain. And I knew that if I, there was a time maybe in the first years of our relationship, and maybe it was culturally okay, but you almost armored up to, I am going to feed these thoughts because then it prepares me for all situations. And that looked smart, right? This could happen. Okay, I'm ready for that. I'm ready for all scenarios. And it was the death. It was the death of me to try to plan all situations that could happen. I had to really relearn to take every thought captive and hand it back over.
Good for you. Congratulations.
It was a long road.
Matthew 6:24 says, take one day at a time, because each day has enough trouble of its own.
It sure did.
That's why fear and anxiety are just such hazards for our wellness.
It's funny, I'm a school nurse, and even with our littles, they'll come in and they'll just go on and on about friends or whatever it is, and we do this little exercise where I have them put their feet on the ground. What do I know? What are the facts? What do I know for sure? My feet are on the ground. I could hear my breath. I know I'm safe. I know I'm loved. I know I'm here. And then we go with what we know. And we try to, when we talk through some of the what ifs, that's not real. What is real is right now, right here. And it's actually helped me a lot too.
That is good. That is good. My feet are on the ground.
I have breath in my lungs. And I don't know what else from there, but I know those two things.
Right, right. And that's good.
Okay, thank you for meeting with us.
I would be available if anybody'd like to reach out to me on a one-on-one. You can share my contact information. I'm trained in biblical counseling, but I have the ability to do counseling in an environment that's diverse. So if somebody'd like to reach out, I'd be happy to do that.
I appreciate that so much. We'll make sure that happens. And hopefully we can speak again because I have so many questions about just your story and Santa Paula and as a mayor and then the homeless shelter. So, yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, it started, that piece of my life started when we found a homeless man had died in one of our churches on Christmas Eve. Think about that. And I said, do we have homeless people in this community? And if you have to go back to 2009, the economy was in the tank and it was just evolving. And sure enough, we did. And I wrote a book about it. It's called Harvard Shelter and it's on Amazon. And it's the story. I lost so many friends when I took that on. Many of my friends said, you're causing homelessness. Why are you doing that? Get them out of here. We don't need them in our town. Send them to Ventura. And so, but I stayed with it because that was so God calling me. I was on a chaplain call when that happened. So think about that.
Wow. And you said it's called the Harvard or the
Harvard Shelter. Yes. Harvard Shelter.
Awesome. Well, thanks for all you do. Thanks
Yeah,
for all
thanks.
you do for us.
And I'd love to have another conversation. Maybe we can go a little different direction about balancing lifestyle with their lifestyle so that there's not a conflict.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds great.
Okay.
We'll make it happen.
All right. So for now, thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Kay. We appreciate you so much. Nice to meet you. Until next time.
Bye.